Hello and welcome to Politics here on France 24. Since January the 11th, France has a new president, a warrior president. On that very day, François Hollande decided to send French troops into Mali, first in the air and now on the ground, and for quite a while it seems. At first, most political parties here rallied around the flag and supported the intervention. But it seems the consensus is starting to crumble. To discuss whether François Hollande is a war president and whether that will serve him, we have three guests. First guest is Raquel Garrido, who is the national spokesperson for the Left Party. Also on the set is a socialist MP, Philippe Cordery, and last but not least, a lawmaker for the opposition Conservative Party, the UMP, Jacques Miard. Thank you to all of you for being here. Obviously, François Hollande has taken a big decision. Philippe Cordery, I am assuming you're in favor of that war, although it was not supposed to happen that way.
Well, I think, it's been a well-prepared intervention, and François Hollande spoke about it already in September of the possibility. We have to look at the reasons why France intervened in Mali, to support Malian people, first of all, and because there was a real threat and also emergency in January that the troops of the extremists, fundamentalists, could march into the capital. But also to fight against fundamentalism in that region and to protect French citizens there. So I think that all the reasons were there to intervene. The emergency was there, and François Hollande took the right decision, which is very well supported, I think, today, very largely internally in Mali, which is also very important, in the African countries and in the international community.
Jacques Miard, you support the war?
Well, I support the intervention. There is no way not to do it, because, in fact, if we had won the election, we would do it, the same politics. And I think that, in fact, there was no choice. It's
a war of necessity for you.
Well, necessity in terms of war is something sometimes that can lead into the war. But, in fact, for months and months and even years, we knew that Al-Qaeda, ACME was strengthening.
Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb, as it's known.
That's it, ACME and so on. So there is no doubt that we could not have an entire Mali falling down in the hands of those fundamentalists and radicals, terrorists. So there is no way not to intervene. We did it because, of course, we had to go very quickly. And those who say that it wasn't prepared, I'm sorry, no. Because we were intelligence, information were very clear. There was a big danger. And not to forget that for years and years, we have been combating those people. We have, for instance, avoided that, two pickups were driving into the French schools in Mauritania and the French embassy. So this is, for me, nothing new. This is a danger that we have there, and it will last long to eradicate it. It means that, of course, we have to go military, but we also have to go politically and economically, because we have to stabilize all those countries, which, unfortunately, there is no more states.
Raquel Garrido, do you share that consensus that François Hollande took the right decision, there was no choice, France had to go to war into Mali?
I think that's a highly questionable assertion. The reasons you said that the fact we had intelligence, we knew what was going on, are the same reasons that plea to the contrary, for a more collective approach, at least at the level of the United Nations. One thing we can disagree on when we're talking from the left, or even traditionally, because that's France's position, is the fact that France imposed its view on the Security Council and went behind its back to create a new operation, an emergency operation so-called, that is not what was expected and was enshrined in Resolution 2085, which is still, at this date, at this moment, still not implemented. And the Security Council, when it met on January 14th in New York, when France made its first information to the Security Council. The Security Council didn't choose to adapt the resolution to the reality of the intervention. It chose to tell France, now you should come back quickly, as soon as possible, to what is in the resolution. This was 10 days ago, and we still have no agenda on how and when France will come back to the strict implementation of Resolution 2005.
So you're saying it's an illegal war in terms of international law?
Absolutely.
No.
Read the resolution. It's very...
No.
But read
Paragraphs 10 and 11 of the resolution are very clear.
And the Article 52 of the UN Charter is extremely clear on
Let's
this.
not get into...
Article 51, I suppose, because Article 52 doesn't give absolutely no legal basis to whatsoever. But Article 51, I will come to that if you want. But read first the resolution. The resolution tells all the military that could intervene, the African Union, the CEDEAO, any bilateral friends that could intervene, that whatever military intervention is expected, it should be validated beforehand by the Security Council.
I'm sorry, this is not true. This is not international law.
That is paragraph 11 of the resolution.
We are in the question that a legitimate government is asking France to help, and this is on the natural defense right of any states. And this is customary law. This is international law. There is no doubt the Security Council never said that France wasn't in an illegal war. So you are wrong.
No, you are wrong.
No. You are wrong. We are not using.
You are not respecting
this
the
is a
resolution
legitimate.
on the first hand.
We are absolutely inside this area, but there is an us.
I don't understand. You're the one who's saying that there's emergency, that we had to go, that we had no choice, etc. Just assume the fact that you want.
We have the right to intervene because a state, which is Mali, asked us, and this is on the basis on a legitimate defense, which is absolutely international law, positive law.
Article 51 is the Charter.
It goes beyond.
Article 51 of the Charter
Article
does not
51 is just saying
we can't go into technical legal details.
But we go further on.
Philippe Cordery, on the more political level, do you think France was correct to intervene despite the fact that they're basically only French troops for now on the ground? That
French troops, but it's also a preparation for the UN forces of the AFISMA, which are in the process of coming on the ground, and there has been a resolution of the United Nations to fix that framework. And I'm a little bit surprised of Raquel Garrido's position when we had the debate in the Parliament on the straight after the decision to intervene. All political groups, every single one, supported the intervention, including your group.
But what's your argument? Is to say that we should shut down our brains whenever we're in
I don't see why today you're starting to put problems when the whole of the world and the whole of the political class is supporting a necessary intervention.
So what's your argument? That we should all go behind the troops and say, okay, this is right, and I'm shutting down my brain, and I'm not looking at the text, and I'm not reading the resolution?
It's about, we're in the framework of international law, and it's about stability of the region, and because of Mali.
I give in mind. My argument is that France cannot be the one who is forcing the United Nations. That is a traditional fight we have against the United States for a long time. The United States is the country that traditionally forces the United Nations.
Not altogether.
Nothing to do with. You are confusing things. Absolutely.
No, I'm explaining things.
No, you are not explaining. You are confusing things.
Please. Raquel, let me just ask you.
You're trying to create.
Let's stop the technical discussion. On the political level, you disagree or not with the intervention?
I think it's questionable also on the political grounds, because that concept of war on terrorism, which is the basis of the intervention today, which you explained with fundamentalism and all, that comes from the United States, from George Bush, father and son.
It has nothing to do.
It's a concept that has failed.
It has absolutely nothing to do with American intervention.
In Afghanistan, 8 years of war, and at the end, what we're negotiating today with the Taliban. France organized. We hosted negotiations with the Taliban in Chantilly a few months ago. So that's the whole Afghanistan story. We have a country that's saying, terrorism exists, fundamentalism exists, there's a shock of civilization, we're going to go inside with our army. And they failed. And now what? The socialist government in France is saying that that same strategy is going to work.
No.
So then talk about what's really going on. Talk about narco traffic.
Hold on for one second,
planes are coming in from Colombia into the desert.
Check me out.
Yes, I'm sorry
Answer
to say.
the argument.
I tell you frankly, for Afghanistan, I was one that we should withdraw our troops earlier. And I said it several times. The Taliban war is something very complicated because of the neighboring countries, Pakistan, India, etc. In this case, we are facing a legitimate government, a legitimate country which is which is suffering from aggression coming from all those groups. There is also a target question, this small group of people in the north, that we should also settle a peaceful solution with Bamako, the Tuareg. This is true. But there is evidence that this country has been attacked by forces, and those are the aggressive elements. There is no doubt. And there is a natural political principle in international law, say when a state is attacked by that, is asking for another state to help. This is absolutely normal.
Philippe Cordery, is François Hollande taking a major risk? Because we know when he started the war, January 11th, but it's an open-ended war. And there is a risk that militarily it might not go well. There's a risk of retaliation, maybe through terrorist attacks in France or against French targets. Is he taking a gamble?
There's always a risk when there's a war, because we never know how it's going to end. But it was a necessary intervention for all the reasons that we have mentioned. And I think it was courageous to take it because
including sending ground troops, we're over 2,000 troops. This was not planned, right?
This was not planned, but it was also a necessity of during the war. I mean, the troops were marching onto Bamako. If we had sort of waited a bit more.
But why should France care? I mean, why should France care? Why is it a national security interest?
There are French citizens in Mali.
Well, there are in many countries.
There are sort of French interests, but I think more globally, it's a question of stability of the whole West Africa, and it's a question of stability also of the international scene.
Look at the map.
France cannot be a universal cowboy.
It has nothing to do.
It's not a big surprise.
Please hold your tongue, because you are absolutely confusing things.
It had nothing to do with American intervention
You've said
in
three
Iraq
times
or
already that the government
Right.
of Mali is legitimate. Tell people, please, that the actual president was not elected. Because why? Because there was a coup,
Well, if
a
you go on
military
this
coup
way,
on March
if you go
22nd. So what you call legitimate government is not legitimate by French
is more
standards.
than you say.
So you have different standards in Mali and in France.
Don't speak together. Don't speak
The
together.
point is that Mali is an African state recognized by all the international community. It has been aggressed, it's been struck by elements which are foreign elements. And that you cannot...
Tuareg are not foreign elements.
Tuareg are sometimes Malian, they are sometimes foreigners, and ACME is always sometimes foreigners because it's group from Algeria, from Libya, from Mauritania, etc., etc. It's very complicated, I agree. But you say, when you look at the map, if Mali was going to fall, you will have absolutely, influence on Mauritania, on Chad, on Nigeria, where you have elements which are also combating the Nigerian government as well. So you see, this is something that we cannot avoid. And never forget that those people are franchised with some elements even in Europe. So be careful, because this is not something which is absolutely stuck to Mali. It has international influence.
And for France, certainly, because we have uranium in the north of Niger.
Not only that.
There's also uranium in the south of
Is it
Mali.
illegitimate to have interest in Africa?
No, but the government should tell us then. If we're defending interests...
You think François Hollande is playing politics?
Of course he is. Of course we have interests in
François
the region
Hollande is
with natural
French
resources.
I'm sorry to say.
There are enormous natural resources interests in the region, and the government is faking the fact that
So it's a neo-colonial war?
There's a risk.
I'm asking.
There's a risk. Why?
Yes or no?
There's a risk. Why? I'll tell you why. Because France could have decided to establish a sort of blue helmet international line in Mali,
which is the goal.
Prevent the attack on Bamako. Instead, it's organizing a reconquest of the north, which is quite a different military strategy.
This is an international element that the states should be integrated and should be respected in their frontiers. And this is something which in Africa is very important.
The big difference and the major difference between the American wars and this war is that the American wars were to change a government in place. There is to defend an existing government, and it makes all the difference.
The resolution says the contrary. Says that this government is a transition government and that we should implement democracy in Mali because people in Mali have a right
to elect.
But that's exactly part of the political solution.
That's exactly what we're saying.
The government has to be changed at some point by the people itself via
the people will vote, but we have a
democracy.
legitimate
Let me stop you for one last question, Jacques Mir. Some people in your camp are saying François Hollande is improvising, France is going alone.
No, the only critics that have been raised by some elements, and I think they are badly informed, is that he should have intervened before. And
no, they're saying it's improvisation. François Hollande just one morning woke up.
When you face such... No, I'm sorry.
But that's what they're saying.
We are in the opposition. I am in the opposition. But sometimes I have to recognize that it is very complicated and that sometimes we should take daily decision, you see. And this is not improvisation because the French Defense Ministry knew the situation for long. And it has been prepared, you know.
But the public was prepared to the contrary because François Hollande said in November that in no case whatsoever he would go into Mali.
It was maybe a small mistake saying we are not going to intervene.
And Fabius
but it doesn't
said that we would
mean that we should not do it. So there is a difference between, because maybe we could have thought that the situation will not go so rapidly, but it went rapidly, and it was a good decision to intervene.
So
I'm quite. I mean, there's a whole world is supporting French intervention, and it's really a bit of a shame that the whole political class in France cannot support when you need unity behind the government.
The troops we are by ourselves. Our troops. It's not true to say that everyone is supporting us. The support is quite vocal at this stage, and I think that the international legality of the operation is one of the reasons why we're so lonely in this military operation.
Which is not true.
We have to end it here. Obviously, hot topic here in France. The intervention in Mali is probably going to take a few weeks or months. We'll see how it goes and how it goes politically for the decision maker in that case, President François Hollande. Thank you very much for watching this edition of Politics here on France 24.